Okay, here's what I want to do. I want to take a bunch of your phone calls, first-time callers. We got some long-time callers on right now, but everybody else that calls in now, first-time callers. What is your take on election 2014? What do you expect Obama to do once he's a lame duck with all of his executive power on open borders, total amnesty, wars, police state, you name it? How do we counter that? There's some good news out today on a Rasmussen poll. 78% say politicians play race card just to get reelected. And that is good news. Everyone I know, I don't care what color they are, is so sick of the race baiting and political correctness. It just doesn't work anymore. We played this video last hour. It's up on Infowars.com. James O'Keefe of Project Veritas went around and was able to vote 20 times. 20 times in North Carolina alone. Or he got up to the point of voting, could have voted. They gave him the ballot, sent him in. He didn't break the law and do it. He was able, though, to simulate voting 20 times, and they didn't want to see his ID. It was all a big joke. They would chastise him. You don't show us that ID. You can go online, get the voter rolls of people that haven't voted in a decade or who are dead, and then you can vote over and over again. So this is how it works. The problem is the welfare people are so lazy, the Democrats can't get them to go vote. That's why last week they got caught in New York and other states and Maryland sending out threatening emails and letters saying, we will cut you off your welfare if you don't get up and go vote. And Obama's saying, now listen, I'm not saying be like Chicago, but you can be voting early this week. I'm not saying vote repeatedly. It's so obvious. It's so criminal. It's so over the top. They want us to live like in South Chicago with no guns and 50 people getting shot a week and corrupt police. They want us to live like in the armpit of Guatemala or Nigeria. It's so disgusting. So I'm going to race through your calls now. So just callers, just make your point. Don't thank me. I never used to know when I was in like a freshman in college why Limbaugh would say ditto, 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 but it's because the whole show gets taken up with thanking me. Just please, I want to hear what you have to say. Captain USA in Missouri, go ahead.
I'm really anxious to see how this Amendment 9 goes through tomorrow. Whenever we voted 5 days before the Ferguson thing erupted, the Missouri voters really did a lot of good. Paul Kurtman, he wrote a bill that's going to give electronic privacy, just like the Constitution and Bill of Rights said. But now it'll be Missouri's 9th Amendment. So hopefully it passes.
Very interesting. What do you think of the amendment they're trying to pass in Illinois that says anyone can vote regardless of citizenship or national country of origin? It says you can be a foreigner with no ID and vote. It's just a government revolution against the people.
Totally crazy. I'm one of those conspiracy theorists that started collecting newspapers the day that Ronald Reagan was shot. And I think I have Chicago newspapers of when the Clintons were handing out citizenship to get votes in that area back in the 90s when Ross Perot was warning us how bad NAFTA was going to cripple us.
We've got clips of that debate in Fall of the Republic, my second film on Obama. And it charts what's going to happen. That's why the film's so important 4 years later, because it's all basically come true. And you look at Ross Perot in that hour-long debate. We only played a few clips of it, and he just predicted everything. Now, Larry, they get paid $30 an hour on average in Canada. And as soon as they opened our border up to trade, they dropped down to about $15 an hour, and we were at $15. Now, when we drop it in Mexico, they're about $1 an hour. And so we'll drop on my numbers to about $7 or $8 an hour, Larry. And then you won't have an economy to buy goods and services. It will kill the internal economy. Now, I've made billions of dollars and hired tens of thousands of people. I know how to do this, Larry. This is not rocket science, though. This will happen. This has been done in other countries. This is big corporations trying to gut the U.S. for short-term profits and to bring in a lot of centralized control for politicians and companies that have connections in governments. Because they don't want to just move to Mexico. They want to move to China after that. It's a giant sucking sound, Larry. A race to the bottom is what the IMF and World Bank call it, Larry. And Al Gore just kept interrupting him and, ha, 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 listen to this old guy over here. What does he know? Oh, yeah. And now you see what's happened. And then Ross Perot came out and said, they have threatened to kill my family, and this country's in worse shape than I thought, so I am bowing out of here. As soon as he hit 33 in the polls, that's a three-way race, as soon as he hit even with the other candidates in a trifecta, he said, I am bowing out of here. And a lot was made of, was Ross Perot a good guy? Was he a bad guy? I know he was right. That's all I know. Let's go ahead and talk to Wayne in Texas. Wayne, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex, nice invitation. Look, I went on the site last night about my election district, and, you know, that they're saying that they're going to enforce the ID law here in Texas. So two things that I would encourage people to do is, number one, I'm going to vote out a lot of these incumbents. And number two, you get an access code when you go vote. And I think this access code may have to verify your vote, you know, in case there is a recount or something. You know, maybe you can take this claim ticket they give you and verify that your vote is recorded correctly.
Well, you do that also doing your own exit polls, going and working, you know, during the stacking of the ballots to put them in the machines and other systems, and then you get to really see what happened. I was in Travis County in the Republican primaries in 1995, and I was there downtown at the old convention center they tore down, stacking the ballots to stick them in the machines. And, I mean, it was 60% Pat Buchanan. I think Travis County was like 6-7% for Pat Buchanan when the night closed out. And I talked to everybody in there, and they're like, no, it's Pat Buchanan, hands down. Pat Buchanan, out of a whole bunch of Republicans, just dominated. And they proved in Arizona he really won in other states. So the fix is in. But then you add all these illegals to it, it only gets crazier. Good to hear from you. Oh, yeah, the Justice Department, the race baiters, huff and puff and say, Texas, why is being sued? They're racist. They want you to show one of 8 forms of ID. Basically, anything will do. You can show your welfare card. You can show your anything. Just to show I'm the person here to vote. The Democrats hand out the rolls that are online of who's dead or who hadn't voted. That's why if you haven't voted in a long time, you need to get yourself off the roll. Because people are voting in your name. It's identity theft. It's identity theft, and it's being fostered. In fact, they use online voter rolls for a lot of identity theft out there. And have you ever had your identity stolen? I've had mine just a little bit. I've had it just a little bit about 10 years ago, and it was done as a dirty trick. And let me tell you, it's not fun when creditors are calling up and you're getting bills and you're getting threatened or you try to fly and somebody's done something in your name. It's not fun. And it's happened to most Americans. It happened to my dad. He was on a no-fly list for a while because of it. Not because he was my dad. This is happening to tens of millions of people, to congressmen and women. What a fraudulent system. And their answer is biometrics. I told you that was coming. Now Obama says biometrics. Let's talk to Catherine in Alabama. Thanks for calling. You're on the air.
Hey, I read the poll about 78% race baiters. I live in Alabama, and it's a huge problem here because black and white people basically get along, but when you get to the topic of politics, it's just not something that we can talk about. It's just
it's meant to make everybody uncomfortable. All this political correctness is meant to keep the whole race deal going.
What's an articulate way to bring this up in conversation?
The articulate way to bring it up is say we shouldn't be prisoners of the past and of a past that's meant to distract us on how we're all being screwed over by the globalist. And then you need to just not care about it and not always be trying to placate and walk on eggshells around each other. Everybody just needs to start getting it out in the open and just talking about it. I mean, that's what I do. There was a quote on Fox News over the weekend about Obama being the most racist president in history. I don't know if I totally agree with that statement. He's been the biggest, it was Ben Stein that said it, he's been one of the biggest race bait pushers ever. But they always talk about the founding fathers, some of them having slaves. They were the first country ever in 1776 to almost get it in the Declaration of Independence and to almost get it years later in the Constitution to end it. But the South threatened basically to split off, and there would never have been a union. It was Europe that began to end slavery first. Slavery was going on in the caste system in India, in the caste system in Japan, in Africa. The Aztecs had a caste system of slaves. They sacrificed you, for heaven's sakes. And I'm not saying the practice of slavery was okay. It's that it was going on everywhere. It started in every culture 6,000, 7,000 years ago. We're not sure. Every culture had it. The difference is we had segregation after it, and we had populations that stayed separate. And so that's the unique American experience, and what came after it is the shame. What came after the slavery, because the slavery was going on all over the world. America and England really, and the Dutch as well, they led the world ending slavery. The British went around for hundreds of years attacking ships that had slaves and freeing them. Okay, I mean, let's just be clear. Let's be clear about that. By the way, England, going back about 200 years ago, was trying to ban slavery all over the world. But really, they took the abolitionist movement that started in England and the Netherlands and used the Christians wanting to end it as the excuse to just go rob ships and take over countries that still had slavery going, especially in the Caribbean. So I don't want to over-lionize the British. The same thing happened. Christians wanted to end slavery here in the United States, and then that wasn't really one of the big issues when the Civil War started. It was trade deals and tariffs, but then they later made that a centerpiece of it towards the end. But it was hijacked. I mean, talk about the British. They were still doing press gangs until about 200 years ago when they had so many riots across England. They would come and conk your son over the head. They like people 14 years old or so because they can mold them. And then the Navy would just kidnap your child or sometimes your husband. But they didn't call it slavery. They called it impressment. Impressment. So there's many other forms of slavery. Just like 7 million people in the prison system, 3 million in minimum or medium or maximum security, millions more in the halfway house system, biggest prison population in the world, teaching people how to be criminals, letting the violent criminals out, keeping the nonviolence in. That's modern slavery working for 25 cents an hour. But there's no movement to try to stop that and calling it what it is. And the prison industry lobbying at legislatures to have bigger and bigger sentences and more prisons to get our money. And every good old boy I've ever known goes, prisoners, hot tubs, cable TV, smoking cigarettes all day, take their air conditioning away, make it painful, and make them work. That's why you don't have a job. Can you compete against 15 to 25 cents an hour at those huge factories? They don't just make furniture and light bulbs and license plates. Disgusting. Let's go ahead and take another phone call. Raider in Oregon, you're on the air.
Hello, my radio friend. 4 years ago, you had Joe Rogan in studio talking about all of this and just about life in general. And in pops in Joey Coconut Diaz. He tore up the control room. And he said that, the very things that we're talking about now today. Although he did it in a vulgar manner. It's one of the funniest shows you ever had.
Yeah, that video has millions of views online. I'm friends with Joey Diaz. We hang out whenever he's in town.
I love the guy. Yeah, he's great. He said it, and what he said was every 4 years you get the same thing from your politicians. So when I cuss, think about that. Think about what they do to you, and then think about me cussing. Thinking that's the bad thing. The distraction is somebody that tells the truth but says it in a real manner, and they use vulgarity.
Sure. That goes back to what I always talk about with Apocalypse Now. We train our pilots to drop napalm on men, women, and children, but then we court-martial them if they write the F word on the side of their airplane. I get it.
Yeah,
it's a good point.
It's a selection process, Alex. It's a selection process. So I don't know what's going to come out of this. Do the best you can to participate in it, but is it really going to be worth it? I mean, these people are all are paid off in their back pockets anyway. You know, the whole thing is rigged.
I hear you, brother. I appreciate your call. Let's talk to Eric in Missouri. You're on the air. Welcome.
Yeah, how you doing, Alex? I just got a couple points real quick. But first, I just want to say that earlier you said that the biggest losers in your life are the people that you'll spit facts at, and then they'll just straight make up things. And I just want to say you totally hit that on the head. I got a lot of people in my life that are the same way. But
they're very sad people. They're very sad.
Right. I mean, dead on. First of all, I just want to say that I'm as poverty struck and as real as they come. When I first got online and I seen the price of the X2 and the DNA Force, I was a little, hesitant, but I pulled the trigger on it. It has changed my life. I've been taking it for about 24 days now. I'm coming off some pharmaceutical chemicals, that the demons in white coats gave me, but totally changed my life. I have a whole new perspective on life, getting great sleep, just pounding the weight, staying in shape. I've been listening to you for a long time. Really changed my life.
Did you go through a detox on the X2?
Oh, yeah. And plus, I was going through the detox anyway that I've been through, multiple times in the past with this, with these Nazi chemicals from these doctors. But it was a more upfront, it's like a shorter, more intense, but I could feel it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was a better withdrawal overall.
Well, I'll tell you, most people are incredibly iodine deficient, or they're not getting the right type of pure iodine, and it's just magic what it's done for myself and my family. God bless you so much, sir. And if people can't even afford that, you can get the sea salts that have something similar, though not as good, and that'll change your life. So let's just be clear. There's more alternatives than just X2 at InfoWarsLife.com. Thank you, sir. The globalist social engineers are not just targeting us with propaganda. They are manipulating our genetics. We are being targeted at every level by estrogen mimickers that lower our testosterone and other hormones and natural compounds that the body needs. After consulting top doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, and others, we have developed what I believe is the ultimate non-GMO organic super male vitality formula, sourced from powerful organic herbs and then concentrated for maximum potency. Super Male Vitality was developed to activate your body's own natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals. Super Male Vitality by InfoWars Life is so powerful that I only take half the recommended dose. For a limited time, we are offering 15% off Super Male Vitality at InfoWarsLife.com to introduce you to this powerful supplement. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality. InfoWarsLife.com.